Hi there. Welcome to The Preventable, the podcast giving you a seat at the table with conversations about the intersection of alcohol, drugs, and mental health in everyday lives. Take a seat and join us.
Hi, welcome to The Preventable. Before we get started today with our two guests we're having a conversation with, I do want to make sure we give a big shout out and thank you to Hubbard Radio for letting us use their space and their equipment and record our podcast and be able to share these wonderful conversations with you all. So as I said, today is a special day because we have not one, but two guests on the podcast. And our two guests today are Liz and Austin. Hi, Liz and Austin.
Hello.
Hi.
So Liz and Austin have been connected with Prevent+Ed and were invited to be guests of The Preventable. They have been working as interns at Prevent+Ed. Mm-hmm. And I promise I don't say this to all the interns, but you know, if you've ever been in a position where you've been able to engage with interns, it can be such an incredible process because you're able to have some fresh ideas and thoughts, meet some different people, hopefully be able to give meaningful experience to people who are, you know, kind of checking out some different nonprofits and social service agencies. And sometimes it's amazing, and sometimes it's like, okay, that was fine. Thanks. Good luck to you. Liz and Austin have reset the bar for amazing. I just have to tell y'all. Like, they came in, and I'll let them both, like, introduce themselves and tell a little more, but I just have to, like, give them some shout-outs and brags for a few minutes because they have come in from day one and just dove into Prevent+Ed. Like, constantly are like, what else? Can I go to that? I want to be part of that. How do I do that? And mean it that they want to be involved. They're not just like checking a box. I got to do an internship and I got to do this next step. They're like, they want to do more and offering really thoughtful ideas and feedback and conversation about things. And they've just really become part of us. So it's been amazing. So now that I've said all those things, why don't you all introduce yourselves and tell us like who are these amazing people I'm talking about?
I don't know if I can follow that. I'm speechless, which is hard for me because I talk a lot. But thank you. That was very kind and generous. And it means a lot. I know, especially like coming into places for short periods of time, it's hard to really make a mark or feel like you're making a difference. So it's really cool to know that we are.
Well, I speak the truth. So
it's been nothing but a great time.
So tell us about, you know, again, like a little bit about what you're doing, why you thought you might want to like hang out with us for a while and all, you know, kind of tell us where it started, who you are and where it started.
So we are both in our final semester at the Brown School of Social Work at Washington University in St. Louis. Part of what we need to do for our degree is do these like internships or practicum experiences. And so we both chose Prevent+Ed for different reasons, if you want to go.
Yes, for very different reasons. I was initially interested in Prevent+Ed from my faculty advisor who told me about the program because I didn't really know much about it. I don't have a lot of experience in the substance use awareness realm. But she was jazzed on the organization for their ability to create sustainable curriculum for students and really make meaningful impacts in community care. And I was like, well, I want to be involved in that. I want to learn how to build those programs that really listen to community voices and meet folks where they're at.
Fantastic.
So kind of more similar than I thought, actually. One of my professors last semester, when I was discussing with them about what I wanted to find in a practicum experience, like working in the field of substance use and misuse is like why I went into this degree program in the first place. but I was kind of like, I don't really want to be a counselor. I like the more like community interaction like aspect of the field of social work. And so my professor told me to check out Prevent+Ed. One of your old interns was also in the class with me at the time, and she also recommended that I check you guys out to see what you do. And so, yeah, it was like I said, I love like all of the work you do with everything in the community. And it's something that I feel like the work you do is noticeable, and like the results are noticeable. And yeah, I just like wanted to, help out a little bit any way that I could.
And I think Austin and I being here together was like accidentally intentional.
A little bit.
Because you all didn't really, because when I first met you all, I was like, so how long have you two been like the Liz and Austin show? And you're like, no, I think we just met. And I mean, it wasn't quite like that, but I was like, really?
We've been the Liz and Austin show for like a year and change now.
A
So
bit.
Austin's first internship was at my place of work. And we got really close there. And so when I was looking at internships and I met with my supervisor here and secured the internship, I went back and Austin was finishing up his hours. And I was like, hey, so this place is pretty cool. He's like, oh, yeah, I've been meaning to check them out. And then like a month later after the break, I was like, hey, did you ever like reach out?
I was a little nervous.
But it was really fun. And I think this experience is even more meaningful because we get to do it together.
Yeah, no, you have been a dynamic duo for sure. So what kind of, I know you've been doing a lot with Prevent+Ed, but what have you found most interesting, most meaningful? Tell us a little bit about some of the experiences you've been having.
Well, I think that TI was probably
so Teen Institute.
Teen Institute.
Yeah, let's tell our listeners a little bit. So Teen Institute is our long-standing teen leadership. I call it a retreat. You might call it a camp. A few days, spending some time with teenagers, working with them on leadership skills, substance use information. We've been doing this since the 80s, so it's been around a long time. It's definitely one of the long-standing kind of flagship programs of our agency. So, sorry, Austin, I just wanted to make sure everyone knew what TI was when you were talking about it.
Yeah, and honestly, it was just like, it was so much fun. We had a great time. It was really nice to see just how like engaged all of the teenagers were, because I know when I was their age and people tried to sit me down and talk to me about drugs, it's kind of just like turn my brain off and not listen because it's another school class. Whereas like this, I think the way that you all brought in like those leadership skills along with the information about drugs and alcohol, and then not only teaching them, but teaching them to teach their peers about it. It's just so cool and very important. And everyone was so engaged the entire time. It was shocking.
It is pretty shocking how people tap in. Yeah.
It was like a really fun blend of like social engagement and learning through peers and through experts, and just like a blended learning environment where you got hands-on skills as well. And then we also got the privilege of dusting off some of our social work skills and helping with like intermittent counseling if teens needed just mediation between peer groups, because between the sleep deprivation and the amount of learning and the sitting in one place, sometimes emotions can get a little high. And so just navigating those peer spaces is really interesting as well. So it's fun to be able to practice what we're learning how to do.
Absolutely. And I think that, is really a prime example of when I was saying, really jumping in and raising the bar. So you all weren't just saying like, oh, yeah, this Teen Institute thing we're hearing about, we'll come by and see what it's like. You were like, yes, sign me up for a bunk. I'm coming. Bring in my pillow and blankets. I'll be there. And really wanted to have that full experience. But then, as you said, Liz, it was so amazing because we know that spending that much time and really talking about and hitting on some things that stir up some feelings for anybody, much less teenagers, it's nice to have that extra layer of support that, if somebody is kind of wrestling with something, that we can pull them out and have someone to talk to them and let them feel comfortable and safe in that space to kind of explore what they're going through. So you all being there really allowed us to do more of that. And I think that is tremendously important. So thank you for that too. Yes.
Of course.
I even signed on to do it again next year.
Yeah. So come back. Yes. Come back again in November. Teen Institute. So, as I'm sure you've seen, and you can share your thoughts on kind of, there's so many layers when we're talking about substance misuse in our communities. And I think part of the experience at Prevent+Ed is looking through kind of all of the stuff, right? And seeing, wow, there's so much that can be done. And there's so much that is being done when we talk about substance use prevention, helping people at different stages. And the world is constantly changing too. And we have new trends coming, and we have things that, you think you have figured out, and then, just kidding, nothing is figured out. And one of those issues that really has come to be over the last, it's always been there, but keeps changing, is around cannabis. And as we've changed legal status of cannabis, as kids understand, and different cannabis type products have really become more the preferred use. And it just is a continued cycle of learning, not only for us as an agency, but then how we share and communicate that information in the world. So I'm really curious to know, I have a certain path I've gone, in life and an age and era and time frames I've grown up in, and you all have experienced that in different stages and places in life. Kind of what is your thoughts? Like, what have you seen, or what have you seen at Prevent+Ed, or what have you seen in your own experiences thinking about cannabis in today's world?
Well, let's see. I'm the youngest one here. So, let's see. So, cannabis would have been legalized in Missouri when I was 21, I want to say.
Okay.
So, what I saw that was most interesting to me, it was like, honestly, it was like the people who, when I was growing up, would always, like, they would never touch it. They wouldn't even want to talk about it. They didn't want to think about it. They were told not to do it, so they're not going to do it. But now it's legal.
So that makes it different.
And it seems that way. It's like, now that it's legal, it's like, okay, maybe I will try it. Maybe I will go buy a gummy and, like, test it out. And so now there's a lot more people in my life that do use cannabis. With that, there have been more people in my life who have had issues with cannabis. But yeah, I don't know. I found it very, like, interesting that, like, literally, like, the day that it was legalized, it's like someone who I've known my entire life that was straight in his hair was like, okay, no, I'm gonna go to the dispensary
and do this. That's fascinating. So, in the world of prevention science, that's called perception of harm, right? And we do a lot of education about perception of harm, but it's not always just the legal status. It's, well, what are the health impacts, and what are the, and helping people realize that there are potential harms to putting substances in our bodies and what those can be. But that perception of harm is so connected to that legal status or kind of how accepted it is within a community. So that's really interesting to hear that, there definitely are some people that legal status is what really kind of...
That was what flipped the switch for them.
What holds the line for them. Very interesting.
Different than that, like, I grew up in Massachusetts, so I think we had recreational legalized a little bit sooner than Missouri.
Absolutely, yeah.
But I grew up with family members that had, like, chronic pain and debilitating like injury throughout their lives who were recreationally using or medicinally using, self-treating with cannabis. And so I remember when medical became legalized in Massachusetts, and there would be lines out the door for the clinic that you would pay $200 cash, and you'd be able to get your medical card, and you could walk into a dispensary with your medical card that you just like purchased in 20 minutes. It was like a quick stop. And I remember so many of my friends being like, "Oh, this is great. This is such a good idea." And I was like, Isn't that like yes, it's a doctor. Yeah, they're giving you a prescription, but really you just paid $200 for somebody to write something. Like you didn't go through any of these things. And I think
like
that
diagnostics or, a certain dosing or anything like that. Yeah.
And it becomes such a slippery slope to like, I'm self-diagnosing and I'm self-treating to like, well, what if this isn't working? What's your next step? What are you going to do there? And so sometimes it had worked out well. I have family members that still use very habitually. They do seek medical attention as well. But when it became recreational, a lot of my friends were like not even seeing the doctor anymore for their chronic pain. They just like skipped that step entirely. And so there's like a danger in making things legal without having all of the education that we have around other substances.
Right. That's what's happened. And I think that's what also increases some of that risk is that as the legality has changed, but then again, so as the products, and so it's very hard from even a prevention education standpoint to have all that accurate information and education for people, because as products change, as the potency of the products change, there's some things like we just don't know. And we are in uncharted territory when we're seeing, maybe onset of use disorder or other related concerns around, experiences using the substance. So having some reaction like psychosis and other things happening is not what had happened in the past. But with the products today, it can become more likely. And it's hard to educate around that when we're still like learning as we go here. So when you have been at TI or involved with other things at Prevent+Ed, what are teenagers' reactions to the world today in cannabis? Are they like curious about it as far as like, well, what does it mean? What are these things? Or are they like, oh yeah, it's everywhere, it's no big deal, or somewhere in between, or, just different experiences for them too?
This is so funny because I was actually just updating slides for one of the programs, the guided program on the cannabis stuff. And one of the statistics we had was from 2017, and it was how many high school seniors have tried cannabis. And I think it was 37% in 2017. Well, the numbers jumped up to 43% now, as of, I think it was 2023. And so just in that short period of time, the numbers are increasing. And so I think that would lend itself to believe that like teenagers are trying it more. That's not necessarily like continuously. It was just like tried it once. But if you try it once, you're more likely to try it again.
Okay. That is true. Yeah. Yeah.
I think what stood out for me is like watching like the teens get this information was how much they didn't realize how much it was marketed towards them in a lot of ways, especially now with like the Delta 9 THC that you can buy at a gas
cannabis
station.
derivatives and all of the
looks like a
Cannabis
Doritos
candy,
bag or a bag of gummy bears. For me, that's what really stood out is how like a lot of people don't really realize that they're being marketed to, and most people wouldn't think that like drugs are marketing to them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know.
Like back in the day, you had to work for your high, right? Like you had to like pick the stem out of the bud. You'd have to crush it up. You'd have to like find like there was a process to it. And now it's just like you go to the gas station and buy it off of a shelf. So I think ease of access is a huge area.
Right. Another very prevention science term is, we look at perception of harm, we look at ease of access, and it has changed so much. And even, we hear a lot of messaging and we do have a lot of education around like inhaling smoke is dangerous for your lungs in a health aspect. I don't know that there's anyone that could argue different, right?
No.
And so, that in itself might be enough to say like, well, I want to protect my health in that way. But like you said, now it's a candy or some kind of different edible or a drink, or, there's lots of other ways to consume the product that then you're like, well, that's not so bad. Or that might be the ease of access, the perception of it. Yeah. So it's been an interesting trend and change to kind of see happening in the world. And I think it'll be really fascinating to continue to see when we're another 10, 20 years out, looking back and what some of that data shows us, what some of the long-term outcomes really are.
Oh, yeah. Well, especially since the ways that cannabis has been ingested have changed. It's like we don't have enough data to like understand trends yet or to even predict what's happening.
And now it's like 30% THC
right,
as opposed
so
to 7
higher.
like in the 70s.
Yeah. I know, it's frightening. It really can be. Yeah. Well, thank you for those thoughts. Anything else you want to share about your experience at Prevent Ed or your work at WashU as you're kind of we're wrapping things up, right? Is there a light at the end of the tunnel here? Yeah.
May 13th.
Okay, that's coming
May 13th
soon.
is graduation, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
man.
coming soon.
You want to come?
Yeah.
Sure.
At 11 a.m.
Can I clap and yell real loud when they say your
Please
names?
do.
Okay, then I'll be there. I will be there. Well, thank you both so much for spending some of your time with Prevent Ed. I truly appreciate what you have brought and your participation at our agency. And thank you even more for joining us today on The Preventable. So if you've liked what you've heard, please subscribe to anywhere where you can access your podcast. Another thanks to Hubbard for the use of their space, and I hope you'll join us for the next episode. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us at The Preventable, brought to you ad-free by Prevent Ed. Prevent Ed works to reduce or prevent the harms of alcohol and other drug use through education, intervention, and advocacy. Please visit their website at prevented.org. Like what you heard? Rate, review, and subscribe to stay up to date with what we are serving on The Preventable.